Well, James, it's been a while. How are you doing?
I am doing wonderful. I am
Ooh,
I'm I'm not no longer excited for the draft, but I'm excited for actual, real, physical NFL football to start in less than a week. Pumped.
I'm I'm right there with you. I'm so excited. I can't believe it's less than a week away. For the longest time, it seemed like it was never going to come, and now it's here.
Mm-hmm. And like I mean, you never know what's gonna happen, but like teams are staying relatively healthy, and I don't know, optimism is pretty high. Yeah, looking forward to that Thursday night game.
Yeah, the season is definitely looking pretty promising. I think the players kind of understand the risks and have been doing a good job of social distancing to make sure that everybody, players, owners, fans, everybody can get a season.
Everybody,
Everybody.
everybody gets a season. You get a season. You get a season.
Well,
Everybody.
everyone listening to this episode is going to be getting weekly podcast episodes.
Oh, what? No. How is that possible? That's insane.
That is insane. Can you
Weekly podcast? I've
weekly,
never
yeah.
heard of such a thing.
Yeah, like one a week. I think the general format that we're going to try and stick to when we're in season is going over recaps of the games previously played, talking about standings, talking about any trades or waivers, and then going through power rankings for each team. That's going to kind of be the general format of these episodes going forward. But what do we have lined up for today's episode, James?
I don't know if you know this, but about 2 weekends ago, we had our draft where everyone selected their players that they
No
would be
way.
stuck with for the entire season, and you can't drop, and you can't add new ones, and you can't trade. You're stuck. It's set in stone, done.
For real?
Yeah, I thought
Oh,
we changed it to that, right?
I might need
I
to.
so I put up a poll at like midnight like a few weeks ago, and then I had it go for 1 minute, and there's only one vote, and it was yeah, and so I went ahead with it. Is that I mean
I
you
mean,
got
that's
like
that's fine. I'm gonna have to go into the league manager tools and add some players to my team.
oh yeah, I'm like I've done a ton of adding and dropping. That's why I've been doing it too. But yeah,
Yeah.
all you other people, you're better not be adding or dropping. That is no longer allowed.
Dang. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, well, anyways, since no one's gonna be able to, shuffle around the lineup except for you and me, you
right.
abusing our commissioner powers,
Yeah.
I thought that we should probably, rank all the teams based on their draft and see how good they are. Which, of course, you fine folks helped us with by filling out that SurveyMonkey survey, and we have the results for you here, and we're gonna go through each team and just let you know how they drafted and what we think about it.
Yeah. Kind of a season preview for each of the teams that we have in our league this year. So, without further ado, that's going to be a loaded segment. So let's jump right over to team number 12.
Woo! Number 12. Number 12. It's the highest number. Good. Right?
I think this is a bad number,
Oh,
like
bad.
12th.
Oh, okay. I I get confused by that.
Yeah. Well, who did we end up with at the 12th position this year in our post-draft preseason rankings?
All right. Well, in our first set of power rankings, it's a big surprise, but you guys voted Stormy Staniels, Cy Suncombe's team, as the 12th ranked team after the draft.
What was his average rank in that poll there?
Well, his average rank was not 12. It was not unanimous last place, although I believe he got about 7 last place votes, somewhere around that. But he had an average rank of 10.1.
Okay, 10.1. Now, Cy drafted from the second position, which is actually his third time drafting in the top two positions over his 7 years in the league. With his first three picks, he went with Ezekiel Elliott, followed by Adam Thielen, and then Amari Cooper. Three players who had never been drafted by Cy before. And then fourth round, what happened in the fourth round there, James?
Well, people at the draft cabin, we were kind of talking about, hey, who do you think Cy's gonna take? Maybe a little earlier than he should, or a little earlier than conventional wisdom would dictate. And one of the names that, of course, was brought up was Tom Brady, Timmy Brady, Tampa Brady, the T-man himself. So yeah, Cy took him in the fourth round, third QB off the board.
Now, believe it or not, this is Cy's seventh straight year drafting a quarterback in the first 4 rounds, and 4 of those 7 times that pick was Tom Brady.
Man, I'm surprised he hasn't taken Tom Brady every year. That's kind of like, I feel like that should just become his thing.
Yeah. Maybe even after he's retired.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like in 10 years, he's not retiring.
Well, in the 5th round, he grabbed the Tampa Bay running back Ronald Jones, went with Will Fuller in the 6th, potentially Deshaun Watson's top receiver, so that could be a good piece there. And then another Tampa Bay player with Rob Gronkowski in the 7th.
Woo! I remember there being a big cheer when that happened too. I think Gronk was another one of those players we were projecting Cy to grab.
Well, in the top 7 picks, he went with 3 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And while that might be surprising on the outside, he did kind of let us know in his interview that was going to be his strategy this year. He said he was going to be targeting those teams that are high scoring offense and going after the players on that team and really trying to get, the stack and any points that he can from those teams that he's projecting to be well. And this year it appeared to be Tampa Bay.
Yeah, and that has served Cy well in the past when the year where he was able to finish first in the regular season, I believe he had the stack of Patrick Mahomes, Kareem Hunt, and Tyreek Hill. And, Chiefs offense was good that year, as they are most years recently. And yeah, he rode those 3 players to a first place regular season. Do we think it's going to happen again this year?
I don't know. I'm having a hard time predicting what is going to happen in Tampa Bay. I don't know if they're going to be in a situation like they have in the last few years with Jameis Winston at quarterback, where they've been playing from a losing position and they need to throw the ball a lot and they need to catch up. I think this year might be a little bit different when they get a lead and then they have to do a little bit more game management and clock management. So it'll be interesting to see how Tampa Bay turns out this year and, as a result, how Cy's team does this year, because he does have a few eggs in that basket.
Well, after that run on Tampa Bay players, Cy in the 8th round Cy decided to stay on brand for us, and he picked up Harrison Butker in the 8th round, Kansas City kicker. I believe is that the first kicker off the board?
Yep, that was the first kicker off the board and the league's highest round drafting a kicker since 2015.
Do we know who was drafted then and by who?
Oh, I'm sure I could pull it up. 2014 was a weird year for kickers as well. I think we had some go in like the top 6 rounds or something like that. Let me flip on over to the database here and take a look. In 2014, we had Stephen Gostkowski drafted by Clay in round 6, followed shortly by Matt Prater in round 6 by Zack.
I'm gonna give us collectively as a league a pass that year because there was a lot of people's either like first or second year playing fantasy football ever. Like I feel we were all kind of learning the ropes then. Like I drafted 2 defenses and 2 tight ends and 2 quarterbacks that year. Like I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah. Well, Harrison Butker was Cy's only kicker drafted this year, so not quite the same as what we have seen. But
Real shame.
yeah. Following Harrison Butker was Alexander Madison, who could be a potential star, especially if Dalvin Cook decides to hold out or gets injured, which he is known to do. And then Austin Hooper was his second tight end, so kind of shoring up that tight end spot, which I think is a good move, especially if you have Gronkowski, coming out of retirement, really not sure how he's going to be doing this year.
After that, Cy went back to drafting one of the players that we collectively projected, kind of along the lines of when he drafted Patrick Mahomes, the unproven, second-year player. He decided to draft the unproven rookie this year, Joe Burrow from LSU. He's now a Cincinnati QB. And yeah, I guess if Tom Brady doesn't work out, maybe Joe Burrow will shine in a new offense.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. He had such an outlier of a year at LSU that he really could, provide some benefit and some good quarterback depth, especially to the older starting quarterback of Tom Brady. So we'll have to see. Following that, Cy took the Patriots defense. We all know how well they did last year, drafted by Cy last year. So might have a little bit of warm feelings towards the Patriots defense and wanted to grab them again and drafted them in the 12th round.
Was that the first defense drafted? I feel like it was.
I'm not sure.
Probably. Or they should have been. I don't know. They probably were. I feel like collectively as a league, that's one of the later times we've drafted our first defense, which I think is appropriate.
It looks like it was. It was 2 picks ahead of the Vikings defense and 5 picks ahead of the 49ers defense. So it was in a reasonable range once other defenses started to go. Bills were shortly after that. So kind of in the round of those first few defenses to be taken.
After that, Cy went with some more depth, or Tampa Bay depth with LaShawn McCoy. I can't say I'm a fan of this pick, especially now that Leonard Fournette is on the Bucs. Can't really see LaShawn McCoy having a big role. But of course, I didn't know that when he drafted him.
Yeah. Yeah, that trade, we didn't really talk about that when we brought up Ronald Jones earlier, but that's really going to messy up that backfield and make things a little bit uncertain for Tampa Bay and for Cy's team if Ronald Jones is going to be a for sure starter that he can plug in there or not. Ronald Jones was his second running back drafted, and his third one is Alexander Madison. So if it doesn't work out for Ronald Jones because of this Fournette move, Cy might be hurting at the running back depth, which I think is probably a big reason why he's at number 12 in our preseason rankings.
All right, Andrew, I want you to call it now. Ronald Jones or Leonard Fournette, who scores more fantasy points?
Oh man, that's really tough. I think Ronald Jones.
Okay, because he's the established person there.
Yeah, I think it'll be tough, but I think Ronald Jones is going to get more of the passing yards, which Tom Brady is known to do, with his running back with James White. But I really don't know. And honestly, I really don't care. I'm not planning on trading for them or having a piece of that backfield. So, I have my team and I'm not really not too worried about what's going to happen over there. What's your pick?
I'm going to say Fournette just because He's pretty good at football.
I think he is more
has,
talented.
Yeah, I think he is overall the better player. But the fact that Ronald Jones has been established there and seems to be the better pass catcher, sort of. I'm not even sure if you can say that definitively. But I think Fournette's talent means he should score more points. But I wouldn't be shocked if Ronald Jones scored more.
Yeah. Well, Cy finished off the draft with A.J. Dillon, with those thighs maybe bigger than Saquon's. Definitely not bigger than James's.
No, cannot compete with Saquon's. How dare you even suggest such a thing?
Paris Campbell was his 15th round pick, and then Anthony McFarland Jr. in round 16. Now, we mentioned that Cy took 2 quarterbacks and 2 tight ends, which means he only has 4 wide receivers on his roster, which might be another reason why he's down at this 12th position, is the lack of wide receiver depth. So we'll have to see. Maybe he, puts 2 tight ends and one in his flex, uses his flex spot for the tight end. We'll have to see. How does Cy?
Also,
you go.
Also, his top 3 wide receivers, Adam Thielen, Amari Cooper, and Will Fuller. They've all had some injury problems recently. And so, Will Fuller, especially, Amari Cooper and Adam Thielen less so. But, it could be his lack of depth at wide receiver could definitely hurt him during the season.
Very true. Very true. Well, taking a look at Cy's schedule, the 2 teams that he's going to be playing twice this year are Shaun and Clay. His regular season records against them are 5-3 and 4-7, respectively. And one more thing to mention with his stack, his roster filled with Tampa Bay Buccaneers, their bye week is week 13, which is when Cy goes up against Clay. So right at the end of the fantasy regular season too, when he might be needing a push, that'll be interesting, something to definitely keep an eye on.
I think maybe Cy should just buy a ship at this point with all the Buccaneers he's got, and just he has a whole sailing crew to help him out.
Yeah. One other note about Cy, this is his 4th time being in last place of the preseason power rankings. This is the 4th year that we've done them, and he's ended up in last place every time. But he has made the playoffs 2 of the 3 previous years. So not always telling. These preseason rankings are not always telling of where people are going to end up. That being said, who do we have at spot 11, James?
Well, spot 11 is the second member of what we lovingly like to refer to as Tier Cy. This time, it's not just Cy in this tier. At an average ranking, 0.2 points higher, so at an average ranking of 9.9, we have Who's Your Daddy, a.k.a. Brandon Hubbard's team.
Brandon Hubbard, his birthday today. We're recording this on Sunday on his birthday, so we better be careful not to besmirch him too much.
A little bit, though.
A little bit is fine. A little bit of razzing.
Some birthday besmirching. Happy birthday, Brandon.
Happy birthday.
Probably
Brandon.
won't come out today, but happy days after your birthday.
Well, Brandon's birthday is on September 6th, and he drafted from the 6th spot. And he took Michael Thomas, the first wide receiver off the board this year. Teams who have taken the first wide receiver in the draft have made playoffs 2 out of the last 6 years. So not the best stat there, but I think Michael Thomas, if he can repeat what he did last year, is probably going to be an outlier to that stat and help Brandon at least get some points from that wide receiver 1 position. A pretty solid player, that Michael Thomas.
Yeah, Michael Thomas kind of seems like he's established himself in the Antonio Brown role back when Antonio Brown wasn't crazy. We're you don't take him 1 overall, but if you take him in the first round, you're gonna have the number one wide receiver most likely, and he's just you can set him and forget him, and he's very safe.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about his second round pick now, Leonard Fournette. When he was drafted, he was the lead running back for Jacksonville. And we talked about the impact on Sai's team a little bit, but how do you think this factors into Brandon's team?
Well, Ronald Jones was a little less draft capital spent on him. So while I think, oh man, it's hard to know. Like, I'm not sure how much moving to Tampa Bay hurts Leonard Fournette. I think it definitely hurts instead of helps him. He'll be on a better team overall. They'll probably be, scoring more points. So he'll probably score more touchdowns, but his carries are definitely going to go down with Ronald Jones there. I think like I said before, I think Leonard Fournette will still be productive fantasy. Like, I think Brandon will still be starting him, but it is rough that his RB1 is now looking like more of an RB2 at best.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one problem of drafting a few weeks before the season starts is injuries, trades, cuts, everything can come in and play a factor. And I think Brandon was probably the team most affected by that with that draft capital, like you mentioned. Sai was equally as hurt, but it wasn't a second round pick.
Yeah. And to be fair, there was a little bit of some mutterings over the offseason about people trying to, or the Jaguars looking to trade Leonard Fournette. That had kind of died down and seemed like that was behind him. But yeah, I don't think anyone saw them being so unhappy with Fournette that they're just gonna cut him. That was very surprising.
Yeah, it will be very interesting. I think he's going to be kind of a pivotal person on Brandon's team if he can take over that backfield that for Tampa Bay, and they are projected to take the lead in a lot of these games, and they're just going to run the ball. He could be very valuable, and he could live up to that second round pick. Or if he gets, shaded by Ronald Jones, LaShawn McCoy, if it's a true, three-way split between them, that is not going to end up being a good pick, and is definitely going to hurt Brandon's team there a little bit.
Definitely. Well, with Brandon's third pick in the third round, he went with another running back kind of in the tier of Fournette, where maybe it's not the same tier, but he went with Todd Gurley in the third round. Todd Gurley the second, who is now on a new team with Atlanta. What did you think about this pick, Andrew?
I think it's interesting. I think there's too many questions around Todd Gurley for my liking. Atlanta is a really good team, and they've been able to support a high fantasy scoring running back before with both Tevin Coleman and Devonta Freeman. But Todd Gurley, his knee has just been this huge question mark for so long. I really don't know how he's going to do. I think there's a wide range of outcomes for Todd Gurley, which after having Fournette get traded and his role now being uncertain, I think, your top two running backs being players that have this big uncertainty around them is not going to be good. It would make me nervous if I had those two as my starting two running backs.
Yeah, and that's, obviously the Leonard Fournette thing happened after we drafted, and after most people sent in their rankings. Just kind of uncertainty at the running back position definitely lowered his overall ranking in our power rankings. Next, he went with his second wide receiver in the fourth round, Odell Beckham Jr. I think pretty good pick, like decent value for a guy that could be really good and has been good in the past.
Yeah, I think this is my player to watch on Brandon's team. Odell Beckham Jr., we know, is really talented. There's been reports that he was fighting through an injury all of last season where he did not perform well. And prior to that, he's been always a top 2 draft pick in the fantasy drafts before just because he does have that level of talent. And if he does perform at the level that he's capable of performing, getting him in the 4th round is going to be such a steal. So I think it's definitely possible he gets there. And if he does, that could definitely save Brandon's team. But not too certain if that's going to happen or not. But that's why he's my player to watch on this team.
Next, we have DeAndre Swift, Detroit's new fancy rookie running back in the 5th round. Oh my God, there's a freaking fly in here. It's annoying me.
Get him out.
I don't know. I don't know if I can continue. This is bad. Can't focus on talking about how much I am down on DeAndre Swift this year. Not because of him as a person or as a player. Jesus, stupid fly. But because he is Detroit running back, and yeah, Detroit sucks with running backs. They have for like the past decade. Basically, ever since Barry Sanders, they've been awful with running backs for fantasy purposes or otherwise. And he has to compete with Carry-On, who is, a pretty decent back. So I think they'll split carries at best. Well, and now they have Adrian Peterson, too.
Yeah, I was going to say not just Carry-On.
Yeah, which, I don't think AP's going to take, I don't think he's going to beat out Swift or Carry-On. But he definitely will siphon off some runs for sure. They didn't sign him for no reason. So yeah, not super fan of DeAndre Swift. But hey, maybe he's good.
Someone's got to come in there and break that unlucky streak of Detroit running backs, and maybe it's him.
Yeah. And if Detroit's offense is as good as some people are projecting, they should be scoring a lot of points in the red zone. So if Swift can get those red zone carries, that would be really valuable.
Yeah. Well, DeAndre Swift was the 3rd rookie drafted in this year's draft after Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Jonathan Taylor. Drafted in the 6th round by Brandon was Tyler Boyd. I think he could be good. If he gets a good connection with Joe Burrow, could see a lot of points from Tyler Boyd. 7th round, he took his quarterback, Drew Brees. How do you feel about Drew Brees as your starting quarterback?
Well, speaking of Drew Brees, I've drafted Drew Brees, I think 3 times in 7 years now. So I'm a fan of the Brees in general. I think I've drafted him around this spot many times too. Honestly, he could be a real value if he continues to play like he did last year. I think really the only, and New Orleans, their offense and team in general is really good. They should put up a lot of points and mostly off of Drew Brees' arm. I think really the only question is he going to fall off a cliff or not? Because he's only getting older, and his arm strength, on his deep ball has basically been eliminated. They had to bring in Taysom Hill to toss it deep against the Vikings in the playoffs, which worked. But yeah, I think there's a chance where he could collapse this year and be bad. Probably not, but that's always a risk for the quarterback that old.
Yeah. And with this being his reportedly last season before he retires, maybe he finds another gear and just goes as hard as he can in this last year.
Oh yeah, I have no doubt that Drew Brees will leave it all on the field for sure.
Yeah. Well, in the 8th round, Brandon went with tight end breakout at the end of last year, Tyler Higbee for the Los Angeles Rams. We'll have to see if that trend can continue. In the 9th round, he grabs Sterling Shepard, his 4th running back, followed by Jerry Jeudy for Denver, the rookie.
Or Sterling Shepard, wide receiver.
Oh, what did I say?
You said running back.
My apologies.
Yeah. Inexcusable.
I know. Well, speaking of running back, tell us about his next 2 picks here.
Oh, well, after Jerry Jeudy took Duke Johnson and Benny Snell Jr. Yeah, Duke Johnson is now the second D Johnson on the Houston running back core. He should at this point in the draft. I think it's a fine pick. His ceiling is so low, but he's good at catching passes. And if David Johnson, is looking like he has been in recent years and like struggling, I think Duke Johnson could definitely put up some points for Brandon. Benny Snell, honestly, I don't even know. I guess he's the backup to James Conner. So if Conner gets hurt, which he has gotten hurt fairly frequently, I guess that's a good pick, kind of a handcuff pick.
Couple of good depth pieces there for sure.
Mm-hmm. Then bringing in Brandon's last 4 picks, he went with kicker Will Lutz from New Orleans in the 13th round. I think that's a pretty good pick. It's late enough where it's fine taking a kicker there if there's no one you have your eye on. And Will Lutz is, almost a lock for a top 5 kicker.
He's good.
Yeah. Is he? Is he good?
Yeah, he is very good. Yeah.
Do you wish you would have drafted him?
I mean, I would have loved to have Will with 1L Lutz on my team.
Yeah, never forget. It is 2 L's.
Well, with the Will part only has 1L.
Yeah, but the Lutz is the second one. So technically,
I guess. Yeah. Round 14. Who did he grab there?
Oh, he grabbed a certain Irv Smith Jr., Minnesota tight end. Yeah, I think that's just tight end depth. If the Vikings utilize 2 tight ends due to our lack of wide receiver depth, since we lost Diggs, Irv Smith could definitely be basically used as a wide receiver a lot, and I'm looking forward to just watching Irv Smith, not necessarily for fantasy purposes, but just on the Vikings. I think he could be really good for them, and maybe in fantasy too.
Yeah. I love the pick here at 15. Brandon went with his second quarterback, Cam Newton.
Good pick. I was sitting next to Brandon. I think gave him a thumbs up or just say, hey, nice pick.
Yeah.
Because it was. So good pick.
I mean, at the 15th round, you're basically spending nothing on a guy who we've seen can be a top fantasy quarterback for Bill Belichick, who has proven to be a great coach, Hall of Fame coach. So with basically no draft capital spent on him, and as your second quarterback, I think that's a great pick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Cam Newton is basically, in the past, if he's healthy, he's a lock to be a top quarterback. We'll see if he stays healthy. He seems pretty healthy, basically taking an entire year off last year. We'll see if he can continue the Patriots dynasty or not.
Yeah. And with Brandon's last pick, he went with the Cowboys defense. Just a little fun fact, 100% of Brandon's drafts in this league, he has left with both Will Lutz and the Cowboys defense. So 2 for 2.
Wow. That is consistency there. Love to see it.
All right, talk to us about Brandon's schedule this year.
Oh, well, he's got a pretty tough schedule, at least in his first game, because he has to face yours truly, and he's going down week 1. He has to face me and Jackson the first 2 weeks, and so he will be playing both of us twice on the year. This is the second year that me and Brandon are playing together or playing against each other twice. Last year, Brandon started the season 0-2, and he also went 0-2 against Zack in the regular season last year. But luckily, he doesn't have to play Zack until all the way in week 11. So he has plenty of time to figure out his team before then.
All right. Well, let's move on to the team that came out in 10th place from our preseason rankings. Alexander Jamilton, Zack Eichton's team, with an average rank of 7.5. Now, James, can I ask you?
Alexander Jamilton.
Can I ask you a quick question, James?
My name is Alexander Hamilton. Sorry, what?
Can I ask you a quick question?
Oh, yeah, sure.
How does the former winner, far from beginner, can't eat wheat for dinner, man with the plan, doing whatever it is he can to contend and defend and continue with the trend of finishing at the top in the number one spot when the season is all done and comes to its final stop, find his way to the back of this week's rankings pack, despite of the fact that he drafted Lamar Jackson, the quarterback, won back when Zack won. His name is
Alexander Hamilton.
How did he find his way all the way back
Right?
here? That was it. You nailed it. But for real, how did he find his way all the way back here? Zack usually finishes in the regular season at the top. He's been at the preseason rankings at the top, and now he's in the third to last spot. So let's kind of go through his draft here and figure out why he's all the way back.
Well, before we dive into his team, I would just like to say Zack may be ranked 10th, but he is the last person ranked in the tier I like to call tier everyone else. Yeah, his average rank is 7.5, and just a spoiler, the second ranked team was only ranked 4.9. So, obviously, like, it's hard to tell just after the draft who has a good team and who doesn't. And our league seemed to agree that there's a lot of people kind of all packed around the middle. So it isn't necessarily a huge indictment on Zack's team.
Sure. Well, Zack was slated to draft from spot 8, and then a little trade happened with James Terhar, where he moved back to the 10th spot. Now, Zack was in the 10th position when he won his championship, the season he won his championship. So maybe this was a little superstition. Maybe it was based on where players were falling, but he did decide to move back to the 10th spot this year. And who'd he grab with his first pick?
Well, Zack grabbed Joe Mixon with his first pick. I know talking to Zack, he wasn't super psyched about taking Joe Mixon. I think he just didn't quite like what was left of him at the 10th spot, and Joe Mixon was just the guy he decided to go with. But I think this could be a really good pick. What do you think, Steve?
Oh, yeah, especially now after signing a new contract extension. The migraines are gone. He's ready to go. I love this pick. I love Joe Mixon. The only reason that was giving me a little bit hesitancy, if I would have been, in this similar area, was that contract. And now that that's all taken care of, I think Joe Mixon is going to be a great player this year.
Yeah, definitely agree. He could, the Bengals could struggle, but I think Joe Burrow there, he seems good enough that he'll keep him on track and keep Joe Mixon productive.
Yeah. Yeah, and even last year when Cincinnati was struggling, Joe Mixon was scoring lots of points for fantasy. So, yeah, I really like that pick. Lamar Jackson, taken pick number 15 overall, round 2 by Zack. This is the 4th highest drafted quarterback in our league history.
I gotta say, if he's the 4th highest QB drafted, like, I feel like he should have been the first highest, like, the number 1 highest QB drafted, because, like, I can't think of another time where a single QB, like, seems so valuable compared to the players around him.
Well, I want to provide you a little bit of insight here. I was talking with Zack. I was a pick way ahead of him. He was in the 8th spot. I was in the 5th spot. So my pick really didn't have an influence on him. And I was talking to him just before the draft. And I said, who are you taking with your pick number 8? And he looked at me and he said, I'm taking Lamar Jackson. He said, I really want him on my team this year. And I don't believe if I'm in the 8th spot that he'll come back to me in the 2nd round. I don't want to risk that. So I'm going to take him 8 overall, which would have made him the highest drafted quarterback. But then when you were willing to trade,
Okay.
he didn't have to wait as long in that second round to get him. So I think that was more, you said he wasn't too happy about taking Joe Mixon at 10, but was really Lamar Jackson in the second round that he was moving back for. So to get that higher second round pick, so a little bit of insight there. He really wanted Lamar Jackson, obviously helped them win a championship last year. So a strong attachment to him. Um, I don't think it's a bad pick at all. Lamar Jackson's so talented. He would have been what was it, like a top 25 running back last year, just based on his running stats alone. And then you put in all the throwing. So he's just a star player. Two great picks to start off the draft.
Yeah, I would agree. And like if I was in Zach's shoes, like I definitely am biased towards players that have been good for me in the past, which probably shouldn't be, but it is always fun to like if you pick that diamond in the rough and they go off, it's fun to keep them on your team. And I think Lamar, even if he regresses, which he probably will, like he's still going to be a really good top level quarterback at his absolute floor.
And he's just fun to watch.
That is true. That is very true.
All right, who'd Zach get in his third round?
Well, he picked up a man by the name of Allen Robinson II, or Allen Robinson II, one of those two. The Chicago wide receiver. He's his number one wide receiver. I think his pick's fine. I don't know.
Yeah, he was a target machine.
He's kind of a boring player to me. He just kind of like he's good. He's good. I don't have much to say.
Well, I'm going to talk a little bit more about him later once we get through a few more of Zach's players. But first, we'll just move on to Zach's second running back, drafted in round 4, Melvin Gordon. A little bit worried about that one because more and more reports keep coming up saying and showing that he's going to have a 50-50 timeshare with Philip Lindsay. And if that's the case, is a fourth round pick really where he's properly valued? I don't know. To me, that feels a little bit high.
Yeah, when it comes to Melvin Gordon, I'm kind of biased against him because he was a Badger. So I'm just biased against him. I'll just say that. But also, I think he's just not that good of a running back. And in past years, he's benefited from a ton of volume on the Chargers, and because he was like the only running back, and he's still like he's a good running back, but like not in the top tier, like not Zeke level, like Austin Eckler beat him out for his own job, and like I don't think he is good enough to warrant having too many more carries than Philip Lindsay. Just don't trust Melvin Gordon.
The only thing that I think might save him, this is something that I learned that I did have my eye on him for a bit, but that timeshare just scared me. Melvin Gordon, good pass catching running back, and the new offensive coordinator in Denver is Pat Shurmur, who is known to be a running back, receiving option, both in Minnesota with Jerick McKinnon and then in New York with Saquon Barkley. So that could save him a little bit. I think Gordon is probably the better pass catcher than Philip Lindsay, but still that timeshare worries me a little bit.
Melvin Gordon also he has pretty good numbers in the red zone as far as being able to convert and score touchdowns. So that could help him, but also I'm worried about Denver's offense. Is Drew Lock going to be taking them to the red zone a lot? Not sure about that.
Yeah. Well, with his fifth round pick, Zach took one of my favorite NFL players, Terry McLaurin, a wide receiver for the Washington football team. He is such an incredible athlete, like Saquon Barkley level athlete that is just unbelievable in his stats. It's really just that quarterback play that's holding him back, in my opinion. Otherwise, I think he would be a top 10 wide receiver for sure.
Yeah, that I agree 100%. He's scary. He's Terry. He's great. Will Dwayne Haskins be able to support him? That really is the question.
Yeah. Cam Akers, rookie running back for the LA Rams, was taken in the 6th round. This is Zach's 3rd straight year drafting a Rams running back. He took Todd Gurley.
First overall.
He took Todd Gurley first overall in 2018, and then he took Darrell Henderson last year when he was kind of the Rams, new fresh toy. He took him in the 9th round last year, and then 6th round this year went with Cam Akers.
Oh, man, I love when I get a new fresh toy. It's the best.
It is the best.
I think you pronounced one of their names wrong. I think it was Darnell Anderson. You were trying to say?
Oh, Darnell Anderson. Definitely not Darrell Henderson.
Yeah. I think another mistake there, Shmi. Let's try to cut down on this.
We'll just have our good friend, best friend, Jermichael, cut that out. Do some dub overs and make it look good or sound good. Damn it, there's another one.
Ah, man, we're gonna have to give Jermichael a raise.
Yeah.
After Cam Akers took his tight end Evan Engram in round 7. Seems about right.
Yeah, I think Evan Engram is the player to watch on this team. The only tight end drafted by Zack, and he spent a 7th round pick on him. We know that Evan Engram has a little bit of injury history, but if he can turn out, he might be Daniel Jones's top target, and just be a dominant player, could be a breakout player. But just a little fun fact here for you. This is Zach's 3rd tight end drafted in the 7th round. In 2015, he took Julius Thomas, who finished with just 70 fantasy points. In 2019, he took O.J. Howard, who finished with 67 fantasy points. So not really a telling stat at all, but 7th round tight ends for Zach have not been too profitable.
He seems like targeting them there, though.
I guess so.
Zach's next pick was John Brown's body, lies emulsion in the grave. Buffalo wide receiver. He'll be competing with Stephon Diggs for targets from Josh Allen. I think decent pick. Should be. The Bills should be better. Josh Allen improves. Should be a good wide receiver.
Could be decent there. Yep.
Next, he went with Marlon Mack in the 9th round, who I think should be good this year, as long as Jonathan Taylor doesn't completely steal his job. And I feel like Marlon Mack's good enough that they can't just avoid playing him unless Jonathan Taylor's just like the second coming of Jesus or something.
Yeah.
I think that's a decent value in round 9.
Yeah, I mean, that Colts offensive line is probably the best in the NFL. They've talked about it being a 1-1 punch with Mack and Taylor, so we'll have to see how that breakdown actually comes out. But yeah, like you said, that could be a good value in the 9th round. He went with 2 wide receivers with his next 2 picks, Mike Williams, LA Charger, and Curtis Samuel, Carolina Panther wide receiver. Mike Williams, I believe, is kind of questionable for week 1 with an injury. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. Round 12, he went with Adrian Peterson, who was part of the Washington football team. He got released. He then got released by Alexander Hamilton, and since has been picked up by the Detroit Lions. So no longer on Zach's team, but he was the 12th round pick for Zach. Do you think that hurts him at all in the running back depth position, spending a 12th round pick on him?
I mean, as someone who has already dropped their 11th round pick, I think that's late enough where, especially in a 12-team league, you're kind of throwing darts. I think AP, if he had stayed, I think we're assuming that he was maybe going to be the starter and could be, useful as a depth piece, but I don't think this really hurts Zach's team too much, really.
Yeah. Well, he finished up.
Next,
Yeah, who did he finish up with?
he decided to take Jerick McKinnon, another former Vikings running back. Jerick McKinnon is still injured, right? Or is he not? Is he healthy?
I think he's healthy.
Okay, he's healthy for San Fran, but he's been injured for like 2 years straight.
Two straight years. Yep.
Yeah, I mean that's a big question mark. He could be worthless, or he could, I don't know, maybe compete with Mostert for carries. I think if he can be part of the mix of San Francisco's running game, that is a valuable running game to be a part of. So yeah, some depth there that could be good. Next, he took Ravens defense, pretty good defense in the 14th round. Then Alshon Jeffrey, 15 through. Is he healthy? I think
No.
he's still hurt, probably.
Yeah, he's probably going to miss a few weeks. But if he comes back and can do pretty well, that Philadelphia wide receiving core is pretty wide open, and a 15th round pick on potentially Carson Wentz's top option could come out to be a good value and a saving pick for Zach's team here.
Yeah, I know that I've heard that they're trying to trade Alshon, but no one wants his contract, so I think he's staying the Eagle this year.
All right. Good luck pronouncing this name here. I'm not gonna give it a try, but it's the Houston kicker.
Oh man,
was Zach's last pick.
I guess I've always pronounced in my head is like Kaimi Fairbairn.
We'll
I
go
don't
with
know
that.
if that's how you actually say it.
I think we'll go with that. That's pretty good.
I was just like Kaimi. That's probably wrong, but Fairbairn, that's probably right. He's a good kicker.
He's a good kicker. Got on a pretty
kicker.
good team. He's a good kicker. Yeah, pretty much all these kickers are pretty good.
Yeah, surprised Zack waited till 16th round to take his kicker.
He usually likes those early ones.
Big.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Zack is in the 10th spot, and one reason why I think he might be a little bit lower is just looking at his receiving options, and specifically who is throwing the ball to those receiving options. Allen Robinson, Chicago wide receiver. Trubisky, Foles, doesn't really matter, not a great option. Terry McLaurin for Washington. Dwayne Haskins, still not really proven. Didn't really look that good last year. Not really sure if he's going to be able to perform again. Evan Ingram has Daniel Jones. Similar situation. He had a huge fumbling problem last year. So we'll have to see if Daniel Jones can even get the ball out there. John Brown has Josh Allen, more of a running back, quarterback, more of a running quarterback. And like you mentioned, now has to compete for targets with Stephon Diggs. So a little bit down on John Brown there. Mike Williams injured and has Tyrod Taylor or Justin Herbert. Again, not great. Curtis Samuel, Teddy Bridgewater, who's more of a short passing guy, and Alshon Jeffrey, as we mentioned, injured, might not be healthy, but if he does get healthy, he probably has the best quarterback in Carson Wentz. So although the wide receivers and tight end themselves on paper look pretty good, just knowing who's throwing them the ball could be kind of a downfall for the defending champions. All right, let's close out Zack by talking about his schedule.
Well, he gets to play Matt Zabel and David, his first two teams, and he'll play them twice. His record against those two, he's 3-8, so he has kind of struggled against them in past years. So he might not be super happy about the opponents he drew. And past the first two games, we have a little rematch of our previous 2019 championship game. where he faces Shaun in week 3. So that'll be an interesting game to watch.
Yeah, that definitely will. I'm definitely excited to see that rematch. I think the rivalry between Zack and Shaun being these top contenders is going to be a fun one to watch. So we'll have to see.
All right, Smeed. Well, I think you should be pretty familiar with our next ranked team, coming in at the number 9 spot, average ranking 7.3. Can you tell us who that is?
That's going to be my team, the Demons of Cruelty, coming in at the 9th spot. I think that's fine. I don't think my team is very flashy, but I think it's very solid. I think I have a lot of different pieces that kind of make up a complete team here. So,
a real sturdy team. Real
Yeah.
hardy, like a Campbell's chunky soup.
Exactly. Yeah, you can't go wrong. Well, I drafted from the 5th spot this year, which is actually my 7th straight year drafting in the top 5.
Dang.
Even though I tried to trade back with Jake to get the 9th spot this year, but he wouldn't do it. So I was plopped down in the 5th spot, and I went with Alvin Kamara, tomato for my 2nd straight year, being my first round pick. I was pretty hesitant to do it just because he kind of hurt me last year. Not terribly, but that wound is still scabbed over a little bit. It's not open, but still scabbed over. So I was a little hesitant to get him, and some of this contract talk is getting me scared a little bit. But can't do anything to change it now. And I think if he does play, he's going to be great, and he's going to be worth that pick.
I think he plays. Next pick was Chris Godwin, 2nd round.
Yeah, he was another repeat player for me. I grabbed him in the 4th round last year, and he ended up as the wide receiver too. He's a slot guy with Tom Brady. I'm hoping that he's just gonna dump a lot of short passes down to Chris Godwin and rack up those half-point PPR receptions for me. Same with my 3rd round pick, DJ Moore for Carolina, another slot guy with Teddy Bridgewater who likes to throw it short. Same thing, just hoping that he racks in those receptions. And I actually did draft DJ Moore back in 2018 in the 12th round when he was a rookie. I thought he was very talented. Like I could see some potential there, but he didn't work out that year. I didn't really have an eye on him last year when he had a little bit of a breakout, but he has been a player that I have recognized as being someone who can bring in fantasy points for my team. So that's why I grabbed him in the 3rd round. So round 4, I went with my 3rd wide receiver. I went with Tyler Lockett for Seattle. This is actually my 3rd year drafting a Seattle wide receiver in round 4. So a little interesting stat there, but I really like Tyler Lockett. I think he's very talented. I know Seattle doesn't throw the ball a lot. They're more of a run team. But when they do, I think the duo of Metcalf and Lockett, I think they're both going to benefit from it. I think they're going to be pretty close in the end. I think they're going to be like a Antonio Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster duo, where one of them just kind of draws the attention away from the other. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what Tyler Lockett can do this year. This was also my first time going 1 running back and then 3 wide receivers in the first 4 rounds.
Yeah, especially this year, that seems like an interesting strategy with the lack of depth at running back across the league.
That's really the one part that I'm a little bit nervous about on my team is the running back depth.
Honestly, I feel like, for my team, it's the same. I feel like you can never have too many running backs. Like everyone's always struggling for running back depth.
Well, speaking of running backs, I grabbed my 2nd and 3rd running back in the 5th and 6th round with Kareem Hunt and then Mark Ingram. I think Kareem Hunt is going to be a Austin Eckler type player this year. Don't get me wrong, I don't approve of his off-field happenings any way, shape, or form. But when it comes to fantasy football, I can't deny that he's a great football player. Even when he came off of his suspension last year, he was just dominating. And he was able to bring in solid fantasy weeks, even with Nick Chubb there. So I really like Kareem Hunt this year. He was one of the players that I was targeting. And I think he's going to have a little bit of a Austin Eckler breakout this year. And then Mark Ingram, running back for Baltimore, a very high-scoring offense, but definitely a little bit worried with the new guy coming in, J.K. Dobbins. Is it J.K. Dobbins?
Yes.
Forgot that first initial there, but a little bit worried about him coming in and having a timeshare with the older running back Mark Ingram, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, you would hate for Ingram to end up being the third running back on the depth chart.
Yeah.
After Dobbins and Lamar, of course.
Well, round 7 and 8. Yeah, go ahead.
You took all this. Andrew mentioned that a few weeks before the draft that there's one player he was super high on, and he let it slip that I was a wide receiver, and like for weeks I was trying to figure out who it was, and my best guess was Brandon Cooks, and Andrew took him in the 7th, and I looked at Andrew, was like, hey, was that the guy? Because I also kind of wanted Brandon Cooks. And Andrew's like, no, it wasn't. And then he took his real guy that he was super excited about, Emmanuel Sanders, in the round afterwards.
Yeah, I like Brandon Cooks this year. I think that Houston wide receiver core, there's not a defined number one, but I think Brandon Cooks is talented enough to be that number one. So in the 7th round, as my wide receiver 4, as my 4th wide receiver, I thought that was a great value. And then, yeah, as you mentioned, Emmanuel Sanders was my target, my big target this year. I think having a check down guy for Drew Brees who doesn't throw the ball far at all, has, as you mentioned, a history of shoulder issues. Emmanuel Sanders, while he is old, he's still very talented. I've had him on my team a few years before, so I might be a little bit biased towards that, having fond memories of Emmanuel Sanders. But again, he's my 5th wide receiver. I really think that he could finish in the top 25. I definitely see that as a likely outcome. So I'm really big on Emmanuel Sanders. I reached for him a little bit just to make sure that I could get him, and very satisfied with that pick.
Yeah, I think with Emmanuel Sanders as your 5th, I feel like you probably have the best wide receiver depth of the entire league.
Yeah, I definitely agree. That's where I'm definitely feeling the strongest. I look at my wide receivers, and I don't really see anyone that I can cut. I think they're all going to be fantasy relevant this year. So just to jump to my last wide receiver, I drafted Tevin Coleman in the 9th, and then Deshaun Jackson in the 10th as my 6th and final wide receiver. With Alshon out, now Jalen Reagor out, that Philadelphia wide receiver core is basically Deshaun Jackson and Zach Ertz. So he could be good, a really good value to start off the year and help me get some wins in the first few weeks at least, and potentially more.
Yeah. You next went with 2 tight ends back to back, which seems kind of unusual for you. I feel like you usually only draft 1 tight end.
Yeah, I usually do. And then last year kind of happened where I drafted Mark Andrews, and then I also picked up Darren Waller. 2 guys who were younger. I think Darren Waller, he wasn't a rookie.
No, he's been on the. I think he was like a practice squad guy.
That's right.
He kind of worked his way up, and yeah, I don't think it wasn't even his first year starting, but it was his first year, or not sorry, it wasn't his first year playing on the team, but his first year as the starting tight end, I believe.
That's right. Yep. But I had 2 tight ends on my roster that had good potential to be breakout candidates, and I got very lucky, and they both ended up being. I don't think that's the case with Noah Fant and Mike Gesicki, the Denver and Miami tight ends. But having 2 who I think they are both very talented NFL players, at least, very, very good athletes in general. So having two of them and hoping that one of them hits and potentially both of them hitting, and then I have depth or a trade piece. That's kind of why I went with back-to-back tight ends there.
Then you went with Boston Scott, Philadelphia running back. Seems like just kind of insurance policy in case Miles Sanders gets hurt, or
Yep.
if they for some reason decide to do a running back by committee. Who
Yeah.
knows?
And I think Boston Scott is a little bit more of the receiving back, the third down back as well, which could help with some of the wide receivers being out. So, kind of taking that Darren Sproles role. We'll see. A late round pick, my last running back, potential for him to be relevant.
You got Greg the Leg Zuerlein, the Dallas kicker, in the 14th round. Then I went with the Bears D, and then finally ended off with the Jerlame Jones, aka Jared Goff, as your QB, and you made history as being the first team in over 7 years and 7 drafts to take the first QB in the very last round of the draft.
Woo!
How do you feel?
Oh, revolutionary. I feel like I'm ahead of the trend. I think that's going to be what everybody's going to be doing in a few years. No, not really. I had my eye on Dak Prescott. He got taken a few picks before me in one of the earlier rounds, and my backup option was to get all the other players that I wanted, and then with my very last pick, get a quarterback that I would like to start the season with. If they turn out, they turn out. Otherwise, I'm just going to be streaming quarterbacks. And that was kind of my plan, and ended up being Jared Goff. I like Jared Goff because you think about the team. Tyler Higbee, a top drafted tight end, Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods, 2 top drafted wide receivers. Well, someone's got to be throwing them the ball for them to be worth these high value draft picks, and that's Jared Goff.
Sanu. It's going to get picked up and be a quarterback. I'm telling you, calling it now.
So, yeah, I feel pretty good. Running back depth is definitely my weakest, which I think is why I am down at 9. But having that wide receiver depth that I have, I feel very, very confident in that. And, yeah, we'll have to see. My first 3 games are against Jackson, Luke, and Brandon. And I'm averaging only 95.3 points against those teams in all regular season matchups. So not the best track record for me against those teams. We'll have to see if I can get off to a good start or not.
Well, Andrew, I mean this in the nicest of ways, but I hope you don't, because I kind of want you to miss the playoffs just once before you go back to winning all the time. Just get in one time and miss the playoffs, and then you can go back to winning championships or whatever. I just want to I want to figure out that when your mother dipped you in the river Styx, that she didn't have you in a net and dip all of you in. She did hold you by the heel, and then you do have a weakness. You are mortal.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I know everybody's rooting against me, but that just fuels me even more. All right. Who ended up 8th overall in our preseason power rankings this year, James?
Well, at the number 8 spot, still in the tier of everyone else, at average ranking of 6.9.
Nice.
Thanks. I was waiting for that. Average draft position of 6.9. It is the man, the myth, the legend, the source of error himself, Shaun Skerbeck's team.
Second place.
Shaun.
Last year.
Yeah, got second place last year. Still rolling with source of error. I think he is that's a lucky team name for him. He drafted from the 11th spot this year. I think partially due to some below average Pong play, where I believe he ended up choosing between the 11th and 12th spot and decided to get the 11th spot. And at that 11th spot, he went with Nick Chubb.
Pretty good pick. I mean, I have nothing bad to say about Nick Chubb. I think he's been
His name
undervalued.
is silly.
His name is silly. Yeah, that's a good point. I think he entered the league
Chubb. It's like
as
a
okay.
penis.
Oh,
Don't tell anyone.
don't tell anybody. Not even Nick Chubb.
Especially not Nick. Don't do it. He'll get so angry. He hates that.
I bet he does. He probably does.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think there's anything bad you can say about Nick Chubb. I think he has been undervalued as an NFL player ever since he entered the season. I remember watching Hard Knocks the Cleveland year, and they did a great job editing this and putting it together. But I believe Nick Chubb, I think he was a first round pick for Cleveland that year too, wasn't he? Or early second round pick?
I definitely don't know. I don't think there's any way of knowing.
But they were showing a scene of Baker Mayfield coming into the airport, and there's fans all around him. There's news, like people are taking pictures, people are asking for autographs, like everyone knows who Baker is and they're loving him. And then they cut to Nick Chubb waiting to get his suitcase at the terminal, where the suitcases come out. And someone is talking to him. He's like, "Oh, you play football? Like, oh, professionally?" Like nobody knew who he was. The contrast to Baker's entry versus him was just very interesting, and he's been nothing but dominant ever since he entered the league.
Yeah, it sucks when you're one of Cleveland's like 7 first-round picks and you just
Yeah,
get lost in the shuffle.
yeah, it's true.
Yeah, I like to pick Nick Chubb there. I think he doesn't catch a lot of passes, but like he's one of the best pure runners in the league.
Yeah,
Like
I think
he's high in like evasiveness and broken tackles, and yeah, he's gonna get carries and he's gonna score touchdowns, and yeah, so
he reminds me a lot of Derrick Henry. Just like similar play styles, this big running back who's just good at just power running the ball and getting those yards. Not a big
yeah.
pass catcher like you said.
I feel like even Nick Chubb is also he has a bit more of a elusiveness to him that
Yeah,
like Derrick Henry has. While like Derrick Henry just runs and people bounce off him.
yeah.
So yeah, good first round pick Nick Chubb. Just 3 picks later, he went with Aaron Jones, another running back for Green Bay. Aaron Jones was really good last year. I believe in our format, he was the second best running back, only losing out to Christian McCaffrey, who was godly last year. What do you think about this pick, Andrew? Do you think Aaron Jones deserved to be there? Do you think he should have been higher?
Personally, I don't. I'm very down on Aaron Jones this year. I think his touchdown total last year was just insane. And with just more of a crowded backfield now with AJ Dillon coming in, and
Guys,
you still got what's his name? Williams?
Jamal
Jamal.
Williams.
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy. The guy that steals carries from
That other
Atlanta.
guy back there, yeah. So I think he's going to come down. I think he's still going to be a top 20 running back, but I don't think he's going to be a 14th overall running back, where he was drafted. But this was Shaun's second year drafting Aaron Jones, so I think he had some fond memories of the Green Bay running back and wanted to get him on his roster again. What are your thoughts on him this year?
Well, he's a Packer, so I hate him.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think I kind of agree with you. He should be good. But like I definitely wasn't going to draft him near there. I don't think it's necessarily a mistake to draft him there. But yeah, the touchdown totals are coming down. It's just gonna happen.
Yeah. But with
Next, sorry. More.
oh,
I was just gonna say, this is kind of surprising me. Didn't realize it, but Shaun's 3rd, 4th fifth, and sixth round picks, 4 picks in a row. He went wide receiver every single time.
Yeah.
That is surprising.
I think it's, just in itself, it's an interesting strategy. But when you have Nick Chubb and Aaron Jones, who, we gave our piece on them, but you have your running backs, you have them set.
Mm-hmm.
They really, I don't think either of them have had any injury histories. So you got them set. Might as well just fill up your team with 4 great wide receivers, which I think he did.
Yeah. Juju Smith-Schuster in the third. Some questions about him, but he's shown he can be really good, and with Big Ben back, should be good. AJ Brown, Tennessee wide receiver. He really did well with Tannehill. T.Y. Hilton. He seems to be a little underrated this year. Going in the 5th round. Felipe Rios. I watched him play last year, and I saw him play really bad at points. But I don't know, he should be able to sustain Ty. And then his fourth wide receiver in that run is DK Metcalf, who I think is again another good wide receiver, good quarterback throwing to him.
Yeah, I really think this is a great wide receiver core for Shaun's team here. Little bit of a trivia question for you, James. Juju Smith-Schuster, Pittsburgh wide receiver, drafted in round 3 for Shaun. Out of 7 drafts in the league, how many Pittsburgh wide receivers do you think Shaun has drafted?
1. No, it's probably not that.
It's more than 1.
Okay. Are you saying how many different people on Pittsburgh he's drafted, or how many times he's drafted a Pittsburgh wide receiver?
How many Pittsburgh wide receivers have been on his team at the end of all 7 drafts?
Oh, I'm going to say 4.
It's actually 6.
What?
Yeah.
I thought I was going high. Jeez.
Yeah, he's drafted 6 wide receivers. Most notably, he grabbed Antonio Brown.
Juju Smith-Schuster, Martavis Bryant. Crap. What else did they have?
That's it.
That's it? Wait, that's only 3.
So, well, okay. So 2014, he didn't get any. 2015, he got Antonio Brown in the 2nd. 2016, he got Antonio Brown in the 1st. 2017,
I got confused.
Okay. Martavis Bryant in the 7th. 2018, he got both Antonio Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster.
Dang.
So he likes those Pittsburgh wide receivers.
Well, Pittsburgh wide receivers tend to be pretty good, generally, as long as they don't have Duck Hodges throwing to them. Am I right?
Am I right?
Take that, Duck. Stupid nickname. Can't believe someone have a nickname Duck. Terrible.
It's a pretty bad name.
Yeah. Hey, if anyone sees Duck Hodges out there, tell him James Terhar sends his regards, and then just give him a slap.
Make a fart noise with your mouth.
Yeah. Actually, don't slap him. That's assault. Just make a fart noise.
And a big thumbs down motion.
Mm-hmm. Exactly like that. You couldn't see my thumbs down, but I did do that simultaneously. Hate that guy.
Terrible. After his run of wide receivers, he went with Phillip Lindsay in the 7th, who we mentioned when talking about Zack's team, could be getting 50% of that backfield work for Denver. And as his 3rd running back, that could be a good depth piece. That could be definitely a good pick there.
For sure. Went with Jamison Crowder, who I think is the only person besides Le'Veon Bell that's allowed to catch passes on the New York Jets. Oh, wait, no, and Chris Herndon. He's allowed to. He better.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, he better. Well, oh yeah, don't get ahead of ourselves. Yeah, Jameson Crowder. Jets are not good, but
No.
opportunity over talent. And yeah, I mean, James Crowder, it's not like he's bad, but he's the only guy there catching wide receiver passes pretty
Yeah.
much.
And I mean, he's Shaun's fifth wide receiver, so
Oh, yeah.
not like
too.
he's someone that you're going to need to plug in there. But if he goes off and, starts getting all those targets for the Jets, he's going to be a good piece to have.
Next, we have Darnell Anderson, the Rams running back. He'll be competing with Malcolm Brown and Cam Akers for time.
A little bit of a muddy backfield there.
For sure.
Could emerge, but it could be a timeshare as well. We'll have to see with that one. But I do like his 10th round pick, Latavius Murray.
For sure. Yeah,
with
I bet you're kind of envious of that, having Kamara.
Oh,
on your
absolutely. Team. Yeah, not just for the reason that if Kamara is out any games, Latavius Murray is going to have the whole backfield. But even with Kamara in during games, Murray is a good fantasy option who gets enough touches to be relevant. And for him to be the fifth running back on Shaun's team, that's a really good value.
Yeah, that's really good depth there, for sure. Shaun finally took a player that wasn't a running back or wide receiver, Jared Cook in the 11th round. New Orleans tight end who he's been kind of up and down, but good New Orleans offense. Drew Brees throwing to him. Definitely could score some touchdowns for Shaun.
Yeah. And another fun fact about Shaun's team here, only 1 year he drafted a tight end before round 8, and that was in 2019 when he finished second.
Interesting.
So maybe a telling stat, probably not, but this is the 6th out of 7 years that he ended up with a later round tight end.
Then Shaun finally took his QB in Carson Wentz in the 12th round, who I think he took him right before I took my QB, which we'll get to later. I think that's Carson Wentz has some question marks, mainly in his injury history and also his pass catchers that also are just injured all the time. But I think 12th round, that's really good value for a QB who at one point was, in the MVP talks.
Yeah.
And is mobile and can get some rushing yards and, is an overall really good NFL QB.
Yeah. I could really see him being like the protagonist of a similar series with the same title, A Series of Unfortunate Events, because I think he does have the talent, but like you said, injuries to himself, injuries to the wide receivers, injuries to the offensive line, everything just goes wrong for the guy, and he really hasn't had an opportunity to play a full season at his top athleticism. So maybe this is the year.
Yeah. His last 4 picks, he decided to round off his wide receiver core, which was already pretty stacked, and get some depth in Larry Fitzgerald and Randall Cobb. Honestly, neither one of these guys is probably going to be very relevant.
Yeah.
But you never know. And
seems like
they're his 6th and 7th wide receiver.
Yeah. Not really risking much there. 3rd or 4th wide receiver on each of their respective teams.
Yeah. But both of them are on teams that are, they have, I guess, Deshaun Watson and then Kyler Murray. So they should have decent passing attack. You never know.
Yeah.
And then sticking to the whole weight on defenses and kickers, he goes with the Colts, his defense, and then Zane Gonzalez as his kicker. And that is Shaun's team.
Yeah, overall looking pretty good. I think those starting running backs, Nick Chubb is good, but that Aaron Jones just worries me a little bit. I think he has more than enough wide receivers, though, to help him out. I think they can definitely carry him to wins. I think they can be good trade pieces if he does need to bulk up his running back depth a little bit more. I think he's got a pretty good team.
For sure, for sure. That's why he was ranked 8th.
Well, taking a look at his schedule, Shaun is 6-9.
Nice.
Against the first two opponents that he plays in the regular season. In his previous regular season meetings, first it's Cy and then Jake. He did set the highest score of the league while playing Cy last year, so we'll have to see. His best per game average is against Matt Zabel, who he will play in week 7. And as we mentioned with Zack, a little rematch of the championship game in week 3 for Shaun. Okie dokie. Number 7. Lucky number 11.
7.
We have none other than the Lukington football team, owned by Luke Conway. Average ranking of 6.4, so just a little bit ahead of Shaun there.
Luke drafted from the 7th spot this year. Hey, he's ranked 7th.
Wow.
Drafted from the 7th spot. That's crazy.
That has to be crazy, right?
Hey, you know what's even crazier?
No, I don't. No.
In 2018, he drafted from the 7th spot. And can you guess where he finished?
7th?
No, it was 9th.
Oh.
So yeah, I don't know. 7th spot, Luke. I don't know. Finished 9th.
Best.
A little rough.
Well, looking back at the draft, he took Derrick Henry with his very first pick. How do you feel about Derrick Henry as your first pick, James? Not much of pass catching opportunities there.
Yeah, Luke drafted right before me, and honestly, like, I'm fine drafting Derrick Henry. He would have fallen to me, but just not super high on him personally. I feel like for whatever reason, I'm sort of biased against him just because of his lack of pass catching. And because he's on the Titans, a team that I just don't believe in general. And also because he struggled early on in his career. I feel like I'm still, like, the new evidence is here. Derrick Henry's really good, and he scores fantasy points. But I feel like the stink of his early career is still wafting around my nose. But I think he's a solid pick. And he should be a good pick for him.
Yeah. I kind of feel like Derrick Henry is skating on thin ice with rockets on his skates. One week he could be setting records and flying across the pond or the lake and just scorching everybody in his path. But because that ice is so thin, the pass catching, if Tennessee starts getting down in the game and they are forced to pass the ball a little more like they had to do in their playoff game against Kansas City, Derrick Henry could disappear completely just because he is not a pass catcher. So I think it's a solid pick. I was considering taking Derrick Henry with the 5th pick overall. But again, it's just that lack of passing work that worries me a little bit. But he is just such a beast. He's just such a crazy athlete. He's fun to watch.
Yeah, I think he might be the one player that I'd be most terrified if I had to try to tackle him.
Oh, yeah.
Like Adrian Peterson before him, but I think he's now taken the title of, like, I don't want to get in the way of that man.
Yeah.
He's running towards the end zone.
100% I agree. That would be Derrick Henry.
Second round pick, Luke. We discussed this a bit with him during his interview a few weeks ago, but he decided to get back on the Green Bay wagon and drafted Devontae Adams, number 18 overall in the second round for his first wide receiver. I drafted Devontae Adams last year in the second round because he fell to me, and I thought it was an amazing steal. And I normally don't draft Packers, but like I had to pick him, and he got injured. This year, not injured, and he's still a really good wide receiver with a Hall of Fame quarterback throwing to him. And Luke got a player from his favorite team, so this seems like a pretty good value and kind of a steal for Luke at this point.
Yeah, I think it's a good pick. I've always been a fan of Devontae Adams, and I think if he didn't get injured last year, he would have finished, roughly where he was being drafted. So I think it's a good value pick. I don't think it's anything really flashy, but getting him at 18 overall, that's pretty solid value in my opinion.
For sure.
Round 3, he went with tight end for Baltimore, Mark Andrews, breakout tight end last year. Andrews was the third tight end off the board, only a few picks behind Kelsey and Kittle. He was taken in the same round as those other top-tier tight ends. So it could be a symptom of Luke's strategy. This is his 4th year drafting a tight end in the first 4 rounds. He likes going for those earlier tight ends. I definitely understand that with Kelsey and Kittle, knowing that you have someone who's going to get you points every single week and be a difference maker. Do you believe Mark Andrews is in that same category of a for sure tight end?
Honestly, not yet. I think it is kind of surprising that he was drafted seemingly in the same tier with Kelsey and Kittle. I feel like Kelsey and Kittle are in their own tier of like locked in top 2. Mark Andrews was great, and he's on a great offense. But 1 year isn't enough. Like if he can do it again this year, I think you can cement him on top. But I think it wouldn't surprise me. I think it shouldn't surprise anyone if he's back to being like a tight end 6 or 8 or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to see. I think he was a little bit touchdown dependent last year. Not so much a yardage guy, especially because Baltimore does run the ball so much. We'll have to see. I think it's a good pick. I think it is a little bit higher than where he might have been a good value. But, Luke wanted a top tier tight end, and he went after him, and he got his guy. So can't knock him for it. Yeah. 4th round, honestly, he went. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Honestly, thinking about what I said about dropping to 8th, that's probably not going to happen. It's more like his floor is probably like 5, maybe 6. Yeah. I think he's gonna be usable and putting up points all year, even if he regresses.
Yeah, definitely. 4th round, he grabbed Devin Singletary, running back for Buffalo. This pick scares me a little bit with Zach Moss. Some reports of Devin Singletary having a fumbling issue. I'm not sold on him this year, and having him as my running back 2 would be a little bit scary to me.
Yeah, I'm not super high on Singletary, but also I know Buffalo's good defense should ensure that they have a lead in a lot of games, and assuming that Singletary can maintain that number 1 running back position on that team, I think he'll have a lot of opportunity for rushes and scoring touchdowns. Next pick for
DJ Chark, DJ Chark. Sorry, who's the next pick?
I'm not sure. Hey, Andrew, I think we might have to start a new segment. It's called Chark Stats.
Chark Stats.
Because DJ Chark was drafted by Luke Conway in the 5th round. He got him in the 16th round last year.
Woo!
And he's his only repeat player, spoilers, for Luke this year. But he got him in the 16th. He balled out last year, and Luke wanted him again, and he got him.
Yeah, I think it's a great pick. Jacksonville's going to be terrible this year, and they're going to need to throw the ball, and DJ Chark looks like the man.
Mm-hmm. Plus, like, that name, DJ Chark, like,
Ooh,
on the ones and twos.
it's perfect.
Yeah, I think Luke, if Luke is forced to change his name, if Washington gets a real mascot, I think he could do some sort of pun with DJ Chark.
Yeah.
I would be interested in seeing that.
Another great reason to draft DJ Chark is for the fantasy football team name opportunities that are there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that honestly bumps him up a full round
Yeah.
for me. After that, he went with Raheem Mostert of the San Francisco 49ers. I think good pick. San Francisco likes to run,
Yeah.
and they seem to do it by committee usually, but Mostert seems to be at the head of that committee, and touches in that backfield is really valuable.
Yeah. 100% agree. I really like Mostert. He was one guy that I wish I could have gotten just because San Fran does like to run the ball a ton, and I think he's talented. It's really just that backfield that, Tevin Coleman, Jerick McKinnon, there's a few names back there that could steal some touches, but getting him in the sixth round as your third running back, maybe second running back if he jumps ahead of Singletary, I think that's a pretty good spot to grab him.
Next, we have Josh Stallion, the Buffalo QB. They got in the seventh round. Yeah.
Josh Stallion. That
Yeah, I
running
think.
opportunity from him, I think.
Yeah, he's basically Cam Newton. He's kind of that. I mean, obviously not as good as Cam Newton was, but he's sort of in that mold of he's working on his passing, and I think it's improving slowly. But yeah, his rushing ability and his ability to score in the red zone is kind of unique. Outside of like Lamar Jackson, he's probably the most proficient on the ground in the
Yeah,
league. And the way fantasy football is scored, that rushing QBs are just really valuable. And I think Josh Allen could definitely be a top level QB for Luke.
yeah, absolutely. I think that's great value there. Next up, his next two picks were Golden Tate and then rookie J.K. Dobbins for Baltimore. Any thoughts on those
Honestly,
two?
no thoughts on Golden Tate. He's kind of boring. Like, he should be fine. Maybe not.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
J.K. Dobbins, that's the interesting one. Rookie running backs, love to draft him. It's exciting. Never know what they're gonna do. Mark Ingram there is gonna get he's gonna get his touches. So I think J.K. I think he's gonna have to wait a year until he becomes the guy there. But Baltimore is really good offense. They're gonna run a lot, even without just Lamar Jackson running. Yeah, I think at this point in the draft, it's a fine pick.
yeah, yeah. I completely agree. I think he's gonna have a little trouble at the start of the year, kind of getting his feet under him. But I think he's definitely going to be utilized by Baltimore. I don't know if it's going to be to the extent of being like a fantasy starter. I could definitely see him having a week of 9 points, 10 points, but I don't think you're going to have many weeks with J.K. Dobbins at the start of the year, at least, where he's getting 15 plus. But I could see I could see some possibility of him taking over the backfield towards the end of the year.
Got any thoughts on Anthony Miller?
I
His
think it's a
next
good
pick in the 10th round.
I think it's a good value. I don't love the Foles Trubisky at quarterback situation, but I like Anthony Miller. I think he's a good talent. Getting him in the 10th round as a good depth piece for your wide receiver, I think that's a good value.
Speaking of good values, drafted Matt Ryan in the 11th round, who
Yeah.
seems to kind of alternate between good years and mediocre years. But he's certainly capable of putting up really big numbers, having Julio and Calvin Ridley to throw to. So I think 11th round, that's a good value, and he should get decent starts out of Matt Ryan. And if not, you can just drop him or bring in a new guy that is lighting it up.
Yeah. And
oh man,
this next
here
pick,
it is.
This could be a difference maker for the Lukington football teams to get him out of this streak of not being able to make the playoffs. It is Washington running back Antonio Gibson in the 12th round.
I know at the time when Luke took Gibson, I think they're a decent number. At least me, I think some other people were like, shoot, I wanted to grab him that late. And now, with the situation of them releasing AP and him being the de facto starter, and the fact that AP was kind of like praising him, the guy that kicked AP off the team. AP was saying how good of a running back he was and how much the team believed in him. That's always good to hear. And being a rookie is also kind of a tantalizing, wondering how good of a player he is. So in the 12th round, like he could be running back 2 very easily.
100%. Yeah, I think it's a great value when Adrian Peterson was on the team. I think it's an even better value getting a NFL starting running back in round 12. That just doesn't happen, That's pretty crazy, and I think he could be a difference maker.
For sure. Last 4 picks. I went Bills defense. Bills defense is actually like the one defense that I kind of had my eye on going into the draft. Yeah. I guess other people rightly had their eye on them, just because they seem to be really improving, and I think their early season schedule looks pretty easy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a good pickup by Luke. I think Buffalo has a chance of, not sure why, just a gut feeling of being the next, Patriots or Jacksonville, or just, I think they have a decent chance of being the number 1 defense on the year. And yeah, so that'll be a good pick for him, I think.
Nice.
Then Carlos Hyde, Seattle running back.
I think he'll probably be the first player dropped by Luke to get someone off of waivers week 1.
Probably.
I think
unless
Chris
it's going to be
is,
Matt Gay. Is
right.
the next pick. Who I believe was dropped by the Buccaneers. Yeah.
Yep. No longer an NFL kicker. 5th round NFL rookie pick. Matt Gay. Didn't turn out to be anything.
I could get picked up somewhere else.
Possibly. Last pick for Luke was New England wide receiver N'Keal Harry. Second year for the Patriot wide receiver there. Could turn out to be something. Last pick, you're spending on him. I think that's a good shot. A good player to take a shot on.
Yeah, I think that's a good player to, see what he does week 1. See if he's getting targeted. See if Cam likes to throw to him. If he does, great, keep him. If not, drop him for whoever's on waivers.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about the schedule for Luke.
Oh, did you hear that, Andrew?
Oh my God, what is happening?
You better batten down the hatches, because we got a Hurricane Clay coming in week 1.
Oh no!
Face off against Luke. Yeah. Yeah. Be afraid. Be very afraid. Clay's coming to town, and yeah, I'm sorry, Luke. Like that sucks. Just, you have to play Clay twice, and just to start off the season, that's pretty rough.
Oof.
Well, hopefully he gets like a break and gets to play, like someone that's historically bad in the league in week 2, right?
You would hope so, but not going to be the case for Luke this year. He's going up against me week 2, combining my all-time record with Clay. Going up against Luke, Luke is 7-17 against Clay and myself. So might be off to a rough start, but he's got a solid team and it's a new season. Anything can happen. Just got to make sure to get a kicker before the season starts there, Luke.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, I think
Andrew, we're halfway. We did it.
We're
We're
halfway.
halfway there.
Woo! I love that Bon Jovi song.
Halfway there.
Well, that's going to wrap it up for this section of the preseason power rankings. Tune in later this week for the top 6. See where the final teams fall in the top 6 for this preseason power ranking. Anything else to add before we sign it off, James?
Yeah, I can't think of anything. Oh yeah, no, except to remember that if you're ranked in the bottom half, it means your team is terrible and you have no chance. And
Yep.
you might as well quit now. Just getting that out there.
Start taking pictures for the calendar now.
Start scoping them out. Choosing your gazebo of choice to take pictures in.
Oh wait, I'm in the oh no.
Oh, beans.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in and catch this next episode coming up to see the top 6. We'll see you then. Signature sign off.
Wink.